Once again, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. I'm Sumer Rai, Certified Career Analyst and co-founder of Compass Career Discoverers. A little bit about myself. Well, I am a undergraduate in psychology and human resources. I went on to do my program in counseling psychology from the International Association of Applied Psychology and the Bharatiya Counseling Psychology Association. Today's webinar is on the career opportunities available in the field of commerce. At Compass Career Discoverers, we try to hold as many webinars like this so that everybody gets an understanding of the different fields. We also conduct experience sales when you can experience the fields we're going to talk about today firsthand through a lot of videos and activities. Compass has been around for the last 4 years. We've had an amazing session with more than 3,000 students. We've touched 3,000 students' lives and helped them shape their careers. And we've had students from all across the country: Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, Mumbai. So I hope you enjoyed today's webinar. And if you have any questions, I'll keep an eye out on the chat. You can either raise your hand and I can unmute you. You can come on and ask me a question, or you can even type it down in the chat room. I'll be taking questions in the middle, and I'll also have a separate segment towards the end. So feel free to raise your hand digitally. I'll let you on, and we can keep it as interactive as possible. Feel free to stop me anytime. We have a few people coming in the waiting room, so I'll just let them in. And after a minute or two, we'll start off with the presentation. Okay, I request you all to mute yourselves. And again, if any questions, please raise your hand digitally. Okay, then, without further ado, I'll share my screen. So again, today's webinar is on the career options available in the field of commerce. We're going to be talking about a lot of things today, from undergraduate degrees to postgraduate degrees, to professional courses you can do, to foreign professional courses, courses in marketing, human resources, best courses to do for corporate, best courses to do for academia. So all of these things we're going to be talking about. So the format will be such that I'll be starting off with the bachelor's degrees first. So all those students who went 10th, 11th, and 12th looking to know what to understand to do in college, have a look at this. All those graduates who want to know what to do for masters, I'll be having a segment on the best master's courses from a corporate perspective. Then we're going to talk about the professional courses in finance. So all your CA, CFA, CS, all these courses we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the foreign professional courses you can do, professional courses in digital marketing and marketing, professional courses for human resources, and then degrees you can do if you want to go into academia. I'll just have a look at the waiting room to see if anybody else is there. Okay, we're all good to go. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when I talk about undergraduate degrees? There are primarily 3 degrees undergraduate students can pursue for their college. First is BCom, second is BBA, and 3 is BA Economics. There are many other degrees, of course. There's hotel management, there are many specializations in BBA, but primarily these are the 3 degrees most of the students prefer to opt for. So what are these 3 degrees? Let's talk about the eligibility, the differences, the kind of jobs you can get in them. So starting off with a bachelor's in commerce. So what exactly is a bachelor's in commerce? Remember, the bachelor's in commerce teaches you a lot about the core finance accounting subjects. So a bachelor's of commerce explores a lot of the fields of accountancy, taxation, company law, business economics. A lot of it is related to the finance and accounting side. So if you're interested in accounting, if you're interested in economics, I recommend you to take this degree. What is eligibility? Ideally, you should have a pure commerce stream, which is business studies, accounts, economics, and mathematics. If you're looking for a BCom pass course, you can even do without maths. Ideally, you require all 3 of these subjects or all 4 of these subjects, but there are many colleges that let you do a BCom even if you don't have this combination. Even in Delhi University, you can pursue these colleges actually. The only thing is that when you're applying, you have a higher percentage to achieve them. The cutoff is higher for you. So this is ideally you should take these the pure commerce stream, but even if you have not taken it, you can still apply for these degrees. The length of the program is 3 years. The major subjects, like I mentioned, is accountancy, taxation, financial accounting, company law, so on and so forth. Now, what are the major career options you have after a BCom degree? The major career options are in accountancy, finance, banking, taxation, insurance, operations, consultancy. So a lot on the finance side. So if you have a thing for numbers, if you have a thing for accountancy, this is the degree to do. Major recruiters, Big Four. Now, who are the Big Four? For all of you who do not know the Big Four are the premier accounting firms. So these four accounting firms are known worldwide. They have offices in every country and they hire BCom graduates in bulk. Who are these four companies? First is Ernest and Young. Second is PricewaterhouseCoopers. Then there's KPMG, and the fourth is Deloitte. So these four companies hire a lot of BCom graduates. It's a really good place to be, especially in a young career, young days of your career. It's a good place to start off your career. It's prestigious. It's a lot of enriching work. So it's great to go from, if you're looking to come inside this field, it's good to go for a BCom. I'll just let someone from the waiting room inside. Okay. The second major recruiter for a Bachelor's of Commerce degree is the MBB. What is MBB? MBB are the three premier consultancy companies, which is McKinsey, Boston Consultancy Group, and Bain Consultations. So these three companies rule the consultancy market. Most of the companies who want to go for need a consultant go for these three consulting companies. So again, a very prestigious place to start your career. They hire BCom graduates in bulk. All your banks, SBI, ICICI, HDFC, Kotak, again hire BCom graduates in bulk because banking is an integral part of BCom and taxation is an integral part of BCom. So you have that edge over your peers when you do a BCom and you get hired by banks in bulk. Insurance also, New India Assurance, United India Insurance, these are major hirers in BCom. So if you're interested in insurance, interested in banking, go for these careers. Admissions. Now, admissions in BCom is mostly merit. What does that mean? In your 12th grade marks will determine which college you can get into. Few colleges do conduct entrance examinations like your Christ University, Symbiosis, NARSI, but mainly it is based on merit, especially if you're applying to DU. DU BCom is going to be on merit completely. What is the next degree? Bachelor's in Business Administration. Now, what is the difference between a BBA and a BCom? See, in BCom, you study major of the accountancy and finance streams. In BBA, you study a lot of other streams like marketing, like HR, like sales, like global markets. So BCom is more focused on finance accountancy. BBA, the whole point is to give you exposure to different industries, all the departments of a business. BBA wants to give you an exposure towards that. So what is the eligibility criteria for a BBA? You can do a BBA with, if you're from any stream, you can do a BBA. All you need is 50% in your 12th grade. Length of the program is 3 years. What do you study? You study a lot. You study all the fields related to business. What are the major career options? They're very similar to BCom. The only major difference is that you can get employed for HR, you can get applied for sales and marketing, you can get employed for international business, you can get employed for brand management. So if you're not really into accountancy, not really into finance, you can go for a BBA and you can try out these courses at these particular industries as well. Who are the major recruiters for a BBA? Primarily startups. Startups love BBA graduates. Why? Because BBA graduates have information about all the different departments. A startup requires somebody who's a generalist. Startup requires somebody who can do everything in all departments. That's why major lead startups employ a lot of BBA graduates. Byju's, Zomato, Urban Clap, for business development, for marketing, for sales, they hire BBA graduates in bulk. Consultancy firms also hire BBA graduates. You can get into consultancy even through a BBA graduation. you can get into banks, and you can also get into the big four. Major difference is that if you're not too comfortable with accounting, if you're not too comfortable with finance, if you want to explore different fields like HR, marketing, sales, go for a BBA degree. Admissions mainly through an entrance examination. Now, let's talk about the colleges. This is something very interesting over here, especially related to these two colleges, which is IIM Indore and IIM Rohtak. These colleges are offering you a 5-year integrated program. What does a 5-year integrated program mean? That you get your undergraduate BBA and your MBA from one university. You don't have to apply again for different colleges for MBA. In 5 straight years, you get your BBA and MBA. And these are reputed colleges. IIM Indore, IIM Rohtak. It is extremely difficult to get into these colleges. They have really high CAT percentages, especially IIM Indore. IIM Rohtak is still new, still very prestigious. So if you get into these programs, it is very easy for you to go ahead in your career. Shahid Sukhdev, Nasi, Loyola, Christ, again, top-notch colleges. The exposure you gain in the BBA degree, the kind of people you meet, it's remarkable. Third degree is a bachelor's in arts. A bachelor's in arts economics. So why should you go for an economics degree? Understand, students, that economics, what you're studying in 11th, 12th grade, and economics in real life is a bit different. You probably have 1 or 2 chapters on statistics in economics in 11th, 12th grade, but a major part of your college life is going to revolve around maths and statistics. In fact, the jobs you get are mainly research and analysis based. So if you're comfortable with math, if you like economics, then go for an economics degree, a BA in economics. You need to be comfortable with maths, you need to be comfortable with economics. It's a 3-year degree. The kind of subjects you're going to study are obviously microeconomics, macroeconomics, but heavily based on statistics, heavily based on econometrics. Econometrics is a mix between math and economics. How to quantify economic variables. That's all about economics. So what is economics? Economics is about studying the impact of one variable on society. So it's all stats, it's all math, it's very math inclined. But if you're into that, it's a lot of fun. You're studying different industries. You're working in probably consultancy. You're working in the research department. You're figuring out how is one variable, how is one customer reacting to your product. So it's very exciting. Major career option, like I mentioned, is research and analysis. Let me talk about the job profiles. What is a sales analyst? A sales analyst is someone who's going to analyze the sales record. What are my sales like for my company? How can I improve my sales? Where am I getting the maximum revenue from? So all of this is an economics student's job, economics researcher. What is the GDP of India? Is it going to rise? What are the factors affecting its GDP? All of these things. Investment. I'm investing in, let's say, a foreign country, Vietnam. What are the economic impacts of my investment in Vietnam? What is the cultural society like in Vietnam? How will they react to my investment? How will my investment react? Customer profit analysis, which kind of customer is giving me the maximum profit. So are you understanding it's a lot of maths based. Major recruiters, Accenture, Capgemini, Interlink, IBM, Wipro, all of these guys hire economics graduates in bulk. What is the admissions procedure? Now this is a bit of a mixture. In BCom, you go for mainly merit. In BBA, it's entrance. Over here, some take you for entrance, some take you for merit. DU obviously is on merit. Jai Hind entrance, Christ entrance, Xavier's sometimes merit, sometimes entrance, Jadavpur again merit. So this is how it goes. What is the major comparison between the 3 degrees? In administration, BBA, the scope of subjects is wide. You understand all the departments in a business. In commerce, you have more focus on the accountancy and finance side. In economics, it's more on the mathematical analysis side. How to build up on your MBA, on your BBA degree? What does this mean? After BBA, what can you do? Students mainly go for an MBA, MIM, or a CFA. Students who do a BCom degree mainly go for a CA, corporate secretary, cost and works accounting, MCom, MIM. And economic students mainly go for an MA, a BBA, or a postgraduate or a doctorate. This is most of it what I have for the undergraduate courses. You can do other courses as well as hotel management. There are a lot of specializations in BBA itself. There's BBA International Banking, BBA Aviation, BBA Sports Management. BCom also has so many, BCom Taxation, BCom Accounting, BCom Financial Instruments. There are different specializations. If you want to know more, feel free to contact us. We can definitely help you out with that. Before I move on to the MBA courses, before I move on to the master's courses, I want to know if there are any questions. I'm looking at the chat right now. Anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I saw one hand raised up in the middle. Whoever raised it, like I can definitely answer your question right now. Anybody? Anybody? Okay, yes, I have. There's a hand raised. I can't
Hi,
see who is it by. One
hi.
second.
This is Lalit.
Hi, Lalit, is it?
Yeah, so I'm logging in as Meenakshi. So my question is about the three streams that you talked about. After 12th, what a commerce person can actually take up. Are there other courses which are related to law? Because I saw it in one of a picture somewhere that you can actually go for law and other activities also post 12th, even if you have commerce. So are these just restricted to these three streams, or there are other streams also which can be taken up after 12th if you are a commerce student between 10th and 12th?
Of course, there are many streams you can take up as a commerce student after 10th and 12th. You can take up designing, you can take up designing, you can take up law, you can take up a lot of other streams. But if you want a career in commerce, I recommend you to take these three streams. Also, talking about a law degree, I'm going to be talking about company secretary in the coming presentation. So, what a company secretary does is that it's sort of a lawyer specific to the commerce field. So I'm going to talk about that. So what I recommend most of the students to go for is a company secretary instead of a BBA LLB or a LLB degree because it has a better demand for the market. So to answer your question, sir, yes, there are many different degrees you can go for. But if you want to make a career in commerce, in corporate, then these are the standard degrees one can take. Of course, there are many specializations within them, like sports management, like aviation. In BCom, there's taxation. In economics, there's rural economics. So there are many permutation combination within these degrees. What happens is, sir, so if I want to go for, if I as a recruiter, if I want to recruit fresh graduates, I mainly in my for my, in my I mainly go for my recruitment drive for degrees in these three. So I will not give a BBA LLB the same preference I would give to a BCom. I would not give a BA liberal arts the same preference I would give to a BA economics. So that is why I would recommend that try looking at these three degrees if you want to make a course in commerce. That is. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, perfectly. So only one additional thing in first one of our slides initially you talked about foreign courses. I hope you will cover that in the next slides, right?
Definitely. I'll definitely cover the different professional courses you can take in India and the different professional courses you can take from foreign. If you're looking for
Thank you.
foreign admission, you can still, the degrees are the same. There's a B, if you're doing the BB degree stands for Australia, for UK, even in the States. So a BCom degree and economics degree goes the same way. So I'll definitely cover them. And thank you so much for your question. Anybody else for undergraduate courses before I move on? I'm going to have a look at the chat for a second just to make sure. Yes, Khushbu, I'll be definitely explaining what is an MIM, what is a CFA program in the upcoming slides. Okay, then. So I'm moving on to the master's courses right now. I'll be coming back to the professional courses you can do in your undergraduate and your after school and in your undergraduate degree as well. Okay, so let's talk about the master's degrees best for corporate. Now, what do I mean by best for corporate? What I'm trying to convey here is that the degrees I'm going to talk about right now give you better return on investment compared to other degrees. What does return on investment mean? By return on investment, I mean if you do these degrees, you're going to get a better salary compared to if you do degree compared to the other degrees. Somebody in the waiting room, just give me a second, I'll let them in. Okay, then. So, what is the first degree which you can do for corporate? If you want a good corporate career, the premier degree you have to do is a master's in business administration. This is a flagship postgraduate course. It's been around for more than 50 to 60 years. Why is this degree in such demand? Understand this. The MBA, much like a BBA, but in more detail, gives you insight into the different departments of a business. You are learning about all departments: sales, marketing, branding, HR, accounting. So you are very good for a management post because you have understanding of all departments. You can manage multiple departments together. And this is why companies prefer an MBA degree. Companies like somebody with an MBA degree because they have an understanding of all departments and then they can drive growth forward for the company. Now, what is the duration of an MBA degree? It is 2 years. What is the experience required? In India, you require experience of 0 to 2 years. In the States, you require experience of 3 to 5 years. Now, I'm sure some of you must be thinking more the experience, the better. For abroad, it is true, but for India, it's not. Let me explain. What happens is that in India, most of the recruiters who come for MBA programs, that means if you go to an IIM, if you go to an FMS, if you go to an XLRI, most of the recruiters who come are your big conglomerates: Tata, Aditya Birla, Reliance, Airtel. And these companies hire you for their leadership program. What does that mean? That they want to take you and make you guys the leaders of their company. So they want young graduates. If you have more than 3 to 5 years of experience, they might not be that interested in you because they want fresh blood. In most of the placements in in MBA schools, this is what happens in India. Compared to abroad, what happens abroad, you require more. What happens in admissions abroad is that they're looking for people who have a lot of experience so that they can participate more in class, give more points in class. So if you're a MBA graduate in India, I would recommend you to go for, if you're an MBA aspirant in India, my bad, I'd recommend you to go between 0 to 3 years of experience maximum. But if you're looking at foreign colleges, go for 3 to 5 years of experience. The average age of an MBA graduate in India is 23 to 24 years. In the US, is between 27 and 29 years. So that is the difference between the experience required, the thinking, the placements, and all of that. What is the style of an MBA degree? It is, you have your assignments, you have your tests, but an MBA degree is famous for the case study application. What does this mean? So, majorly, how you're going to be judged in your MBA degree is that you're going to be given a case a night before. So you're going to be given a 30 to 40-page case. In class, you have to put your points forward. You have to talk about what do you think about the case. How could so and so business do something differently? If you were the CEO of this business, how would you take things forward? So this case study application is huge in MBA, where you have to read a case, come to class, give your points, and you're actually marked on how your points are and how participative you are in class. So this is the case study based MBA is famous for. It's a lot of fun. A lot of the students who want practical exposure do great in the MBA. What are the jobs? You get management level jobs. Like I mentioned, MBA prepares you for all departments, so you get management level positions. Now, in what are the different courses in MBA? Understand the different degrees in MBA also, different type of degrees. Like in BBA, you have you have sports management. In economics, you have rural economics. Similarly, in MBA, there are also different type of courses. Now, most of the MBA degrees which in India are from the top colleges are MBA General. What is MBA General? MBA General means that in your first year, you're going to study about all the different departments. In a second year, you have to choose a specialization. So suppose your specialization is in information technology. Your subjects are going to be based on information technology in your second year. So most of the premier colleges, they offer an MBA General because the whole point of an MBA is to have a general awareness about all departments. But in the last 20 to 25 years, specialization MBAs have come into place. So what is a specialization MBA? Let's say you're doing an MBA in human resource management, which is a specialization MBA. Your first year and your second year will have subjects related to different departments, but will be dominated by subjects related to human resources in your first and second year. Similarly, if you do an MBA in marketing, you will be having subjects dominated by marketing in your first and second year as well, compared to an MBA general where you'll have a lot of subjects, different subjects in your first year and a specialization in your second year. So MBA general is what is the flagship course. Most of the students want to go for that. But now what's happening is that a lot of good specialization degrees are coming in. So suppose you want to do marketing, suppose you want to do human resource management, enroll for the specialization MBAs. Some of the colleges have made their name based on specialization MBAs. XLRI, Xavier's, it is known for their MBA in HR. Mica, Mudra Institute, Ahmedabad, it is known for their marketing. JB, Jamnalal Bajaj, is known for their finance MBAs. For all of you who don't know about Jamnalal Bajaj Institute, do look it up. It's supposed to be the CEO factory of India. Chanda Kochar, Uday Kotak, all of these guys have come from Jamnalal Institute of Management. MBA, you have to go through entrance exams. Entrance exams carry the most weight in India. Common admission test, CAT, for your IIMs, FMS, for your Xavier's aptitude test for XLRI, your NMAT for Nasi Munji, your SNAP for Symbiosis. All of these are the premier entrance examinations for most of the colleges. GMAT is slightly different. GMAT, what happens is that suppose you want to apply abroad for MBA, GMAT is the best thing. And obviously, there's a premier business school in India that accepts GMAT, which is Indian Institute, ISB. So ISB it's a prominent business school. What's happening in ISB is that they've collaborated with a lot of foreign universities in Europe, in USA. So their program is very much similar to the foreign universities, and recruiters these days are loving it. So ISB is relatively new compared to the other colleges, but in the past 10, 20 years, it's really, really picked up. They take GMAT. It's easier to get into compared to other universities, but the pay, the prestige is equally important, and the experience is mind-blowing in ISB. Now, we've all heard about MBA. We've all heard about MBA. But what is Masters in Management? Now, this is a new program that's come up. Masters in Management is an 18-month course. It's for the foreign countries, especially Europe. If you want to go for a master's in management, the ideal experience to have is 0 to 2 years. In your final year of college and 2 years after you graduate from college, you can go for a master in management. The issue in master in management is that the recognition is mainly in Europe. India, it hasn't picked up that much, and in the US, it hasn't picked up that much. How is it different from the MBA? The style of teaching. The style of teaching is more theoretical and more research based, where an MBA is more case study and practical based. What kind of jobs will you get? You won't get a job as good as an MBA, but you'll get a job definitely better than an entry level position. So a little bit lower than an MBA, but you will get a good job. So what happens is that an MBA, in an MBA, you get a management level position. In a MIM, you get a little lower than a management level position. MBA in India requires 0 to 2 years of experience. So MIMs have not picked up that much in India. But in Europe, where an MBA is required 3 to 5 years of experience, this is becoming a great alternative for people who want to finish their studies earlier. So MIM is picking up massively in Europe. US also you require 3 to 5 years of experience for MBA. So this is becoming a very good alternative for students in USA also. But right now, if you're looking for a job through an MIM, if you're looking to settle down in a foreign country, Europe is the place to be. Admissions through an MIM program is mainly through your merit, which means your marks in your last year of college, or your GMAT. It doesn't really evaluate your profile. These are the best courses for an MIM currently available. You can see there's HSC, which is a Premier B school. London Business School is a household name. ESSEC, IE, ESSAD. These are all premier MBA colleges. And imagine you can get into them through an MIM program at lesser experience, lesser pay, lesser time also. So MIM is great if you want to go to Europe. Let me round up again. What is the difference between MBA, MIM, MBA in India, MBA abroad? So experience, MIM requires 0 to 3 years of experience, MBA 0 to 3 years as well. So that's why MIM is not picking up much in India, because the demand is more for MBA. You can do an MBA in the same amount of experience as an MIM. So MIM in India is not picking up for this reason. But MBA abroad requires 3 to 5 years of experience. So that is why MIM is picking up, especially in Europe. Recognition, again, mainly in Europe. MBA, if you do an MBA in India, believe it or not, you only get a lot of recognition in India. Even if you go to the IIMs, abroad, they prefer people with a more of a global background. So that's why if you're going to an MBA in India, remember that you have to stay in India only. The prestige you get, the kind of opportunities you'll get, you only get those opportunities in India. Of course, some firms will hire you for the US and for Europe as well. but it isn't given as much prestige as it is given in India. MBA abroad, global recognition. If you go to an Ivy League university in abroad, even if you go to a state university, you get good recognition all across the country, all over the world. Admissions, MIM, merit, like I mentioned, your final year scores or GMAT. MBA, heavily based on entrance exams. You have to pass these entrance exams. MBA abroad, GMAT, and overall profile. What's happening abroad is that they are more focused on classroom learning. MBA India also has a lot of assignments, but MBA abroad is more focused on classroom learning. So they want quality people, people who can contribute to the class, people from different backgrounds, people who have a lot of experience. So the case study discussion in MBA abroad is more enriching, and the admissions counselor who's the admission officer sitting in these universities is looking for how they can improve the discussion in class. So that is why an MBA abroad requires a good academic score, but also your overall profile. You have to have co-curricular activities. You have to have research. You have to have social service. If you're interested to know how to build an application for MBA abroad, MBA India, or MIM, definitely reach out to us. We can help you out in that. Length is 18 months, 2 years, and 2 years. MIM style, MIM is theoretical. You won't have those heated case study discussions. MBA India, it is case study, but you also have your assignments. It is also still traditional. MBA abroad, heavily based on case study. So this is the main degrees you can do for corporate. If you want a good jump in your corporate, you want a high salary, these are the best degrees to do. So we've spoken about BBA, we've spoken about we've spoken about bachelor's degrees, we've spoken about the master's degrees. Any questions so far related to both of these for the bachelor's degrees and the master's degrees? Any questions so far? You can raise your hands. Any question? Okay, then I'll move forward to the professional courses. Okay, I think Khushbu has raised her hand. Khushbu, yes, please tell me your question.
So, if you could discuss colleges in India for MBA, that would be great.
Sure, I'll do that. Anything to offer for students completing 10th grade? Okay, this is from Dipali ma'am. Yes, ma'am, there's actually, you can do a cost accountancy course. I'll definitely talk about that in the professional courses for sure. MBA in India is mainly your entrance examinations. So MBA so suppose I'll talk about the colleges as well. So suppose you give this exam, common admission test. You can go for the IIMs, all the IIMs. I am Ahmedabad, I am Bangalore, I am Calcutta, I am Indore, I am Kozhikode. These are the premier colleges for an Indian MBA. And if you want to go to this, you have to give this common admissions test. FMS, which is the Faculty of Management Studies, DU, is also a premier college which you can go for through common admission test. Management, MDI, Management Development Institute, is also a big thing in MBAs. The IITs are also picking up for the MBAs. Even the IITs are offering premier MBA programs, and you require a high CAT percentage. IMI, IMT, all of these are great institutes for your MBA. So if you're looking to target the top tier institutes, you have to get like a 95 to a 100 percentile in the middle. These are where you get these institutes. Now, CAT exam is a lot of math, a lot of logical reasoning, a lot of verbal ability. Some people don't have that style, so then they go for Xavier's, which is a XAT exam. The XAT exam also has a GK component. The math is a bit easier. So in XAT you get XLRI, which is a Xavier's Law Institute. You get XIMB. You get different. Basically, Xavier's Institute has different branches. One is in Jamshedpur, one is in Ranchi, one is in Bhubaneswar. So the Xavier's entrance exam is for the Xavier's institutes. Then you have NMAT. NMAT is for all the NARCI institutes. So if you want to go for all the NARCI institutes, they also have a NARCI in Bangalore, NARCI Pune, NARCI Bombay. So there are different NARCI institutes happening. And if you want to go to study in NARCI, you can give your NMAT. And similarly, you can give your SNAP if you want to study in Symbiosis institutes. So these are the premier, most of the B schools in India. ISB is a premier school that accepts GMAT. So if you want to go for ISB, you can have to take your GMAT. So I hope that clarifies your question. In terms of 10th grade, I'll be coming to that, what you can do after 10th grade, what you can pursue. Uh, I'll have a look at the chat once more for any response. Yes, we can definitely share the recording. We'll be putting it on YouTube. Anything else? Any other question related to undergraduate and masters? Okay, then I'm not able to look at the chat. Give me a second. Okay. I'll move forward then. What are the professional courses for finance? Now, there are many professional courses you can take. There's chartered accountancy, there's actuarial science, there's CFA, there's FRM, there are many. I'm going to talk about the 5 courses you can take after you complete your school degree, after you complete your undergraduate degree. You can look at these courses. If you're interested in accountancy, if you're interested in finance, these are the best courses you can go for. Okay, so there are five main degrees. One is chartered accountancy, one is cost accountancy, one is company secretary, one is certified financial analyst, and one is actuarial science. These degrees have the maximum demand in India. I'm going to talk about each degree, explain what each degree does, and you talk about eligibility, number of years to complete these degrees, what are the courses like. So, what is a chartered accountancy degree? A chartered accountant is trained in taxation, auditing, advisory, maintaining records, everything. So, a chartered accountant can do all these things for a company. They can maintain the records, do the auditing, help them in taxation, advisory, maintain their records. So, a chartered accountant is well versed in everything related to a business when it comes to finance and accounting. And you're going to be studying all of these things. And a chartered accountant, therefore, is regarded very highly for companies. It's compulsory for each company to have a chartered accountant. By law, you have to have a chartered accountant in your company. That's why the demand for chartered accountants in today's day and age is very high. And since they're so valuable, since they can help you out with most of the business components when it comes to finance and accounting, it is a difficult degree to attain, but the remuneration also is extremely high. Now, if you're not able to pass a chartered accountant degree, what's the next best option? The next best option is a cost accountant. What does a cost accountant do? A cost accountant isn't trained in taxation, auditing, and all of that, but they are trained heavily in maintaining financial records and advising the company management how to improve the financial health of a company. So it's not compulsory for a company to have a cost accountant, but you definitely do get employed. It is definitely remunerative. There's definitely a demand. Having someone who can maintain your records and having someone who can advise you financially well, it is important to have somebody like that. So this is why chartered accountant and cost accountants are one of the best degrees you can do if you're interested in accountancy. Ideally, go for a chartered accountancy because you are trained in so many perspectives. You can be employed in so many spaces, and also by law, you have to have a chartered accountancy degree. Now, what is company secretary? Sir, you had asked me what is the perspective of doing law after college, or what is the perspective of doing law for a commerce student. So this is why I say that do not go for for a LLB, for a BA LLB or a BBA LLB. If you're interested in law, if you're interested in commerce also, you want to do something of both of them together, company secretary is the ideal course for that. Why? What is company secretary? Understand students, understand parents that when you have to run a company, you are manufacturing, you have labor, you are trading, you have goods coming from across the state. So you have so many laws to comply by. Factories Act, Labor Act, GST, all of these things you have to comply by. And for this, you need someone who can ensure that the company is in compliance with all these laws. And if you're complying with all these laws, you have a lot of paperwork to do. So somebody who can do that paperwork. You need somebody who can document everything. You need somebody who can file everything. You need somebody who can come up with systems to ensure that the compliance is happening. And that is primarily what a company secretary does. A company secretary is the head compliance officer. The company secretary has to document everything, all the laws that have to be followed, all the contracts, all the shareholder meetings, everything has to be complied, everything has to be documented by a company secretary. So if you're looking at law, if you're interested in documentation, if you're interested in drafting contracts, if you're interested in compliance, instead of doing a BBA LLB, instead of doing a BA LLB and then coming to this, do a company secretary degree. Why? Because each company is required to have a company secretary by law, much like a chartered accountant. So like a company has to employ a chartered accountant, mandatory. You have to keep it by the government if you want a company. Similarly, in today's day and age, by the new Companies Act, you have to employ a company secretary. So company secretary has more value, it's a more remunerative career compared to a normal law, compare after normal law degree. This is more remunerative. So that is why I recommend everybody that if you are sort of confused to go for, law, sort of confused to go for commerce, do a company secretary degree. Why? Because see, if you do a BA, if you do a law degree right now, you are stuck for 5 years. You have locked 5 years into it. But if you do a company secretary degree, you can it's distant learning. So you can go for a BBA degree and do company secretary together. And if you're not interested in company secretary, if you're not interested in BBA, you can always go for a law degree after your undergraduation. You can do a 3-year law course. So that's why I recommend that instead of going for a BBA LLB, go, or instead of going for an LLB, when you're interested in commerce, when you're confused, go for a commerce degree, look at company secretary, and worst case scenario, go for a post graduation in law. So this is what I recommend everybody. Certified financial analyst. What does a certified financial analyst do? Now, a certified financial analyst researches, analyzes, and advises people for investments. Researching about all the different stock options, mutual fund options, derivatives, all that a financial analyst does, analyzes what is the best investment opportunity, and then tells the client where to invest. Actuarial scientist. What does the actuarial scientist do? An actuarial scientist is all about predicting the outcome of an event using maths. What do I mean? Where is this used? This is mainly used in the insurance industry. In the insurance industry, what has to happen? You have to calculate the payout. What does payout mean? Somebody's taken insurance. What is the chance of them actually availing the premium, availing the payout, availing the money that they insured for? Suppose it's health insurance. What do? You have a list of questions you ask the person who's taking the insurance. What is your age? What are your habits? Any diseases? Using this data, you calculate using mathematical models that what is the chances that this person would require the money that we're insuring him for. And insurance premiums are also charged by using mathematical models. So if you're an actuarial scientist, there's a huge demand for these. I think they're next to about just 1,000 actuarial scientists in the country in today's day and age. So there's a huge demand for actuarial scientists. It's a very remunerative career. Actuarial scientists can also work in finance by looking at investments. So these are the 5 degrees. I'm going to be talking about the eligibility. For chartered accountancy, you just need your 12th grade. You can be from any degree. It can be from any stream. You just need to do your 12th grade, and you can pass your. And if you've already done your school, if you've already done your undergraduate degree, you can still pursue chartered accountancy with a 60% in your undergrad or postgrad. And the students who feel that maybe it's too late for me to do chartered accountancy, it's not. Why? Because you actually skip the first level. There are 3 levels in CA. You skip the first level if you've done your undergraduate degree. You don't need to give the first level. So this is one benefit for people who have already done their undergraduate course, because it's not too late. You can still catch up. In fact, most of the people do CA after the undergraduate only. What is cost accounting? Ma'am, to answer your question, you can start your cost accounting course after your 10th grade. Cost accounting, like I mentioned, is mainly for analyzing records of a company. To do the whole course, there are 3 levels. To do the second and third level, you have to graduate from your 12th grade, or you have to graduate from any undergrad or postgrad by 60%. But you can do the first level. You can do the first level of cost accountancy when you're in 11th grade. So you can start early. This is the only degree that lets you do something when you're in school itself. Other degrees require you to have at least a 12th grade graduation. Company secretary, again, 12th grade. And undergraduate, you need 60% minimum in your undergrad or postgraduate. Again, students, remember that if you are an undergrad or postgraduate student, you skip the first level in all 3 of these degrees. There are 3 levels, you skip the first level. You don't need to do it. Obviously, the only condition is that you need to have a 60% and you have to be from a course other than fine arts. Now, the issue with fine arts is that they haven't really defined what do they mean by fine arts. So I remember a client came to me and they were interested in liberal arts. They had done the liberal arts degree. and they were looking for a law degree or looking for accountancy degree. So they got into company secretary and they also got into cost accounting. So I would say that definitely apply. We can definitely help you out with that as well. So these degrees are very much open for you, no matter what your 11th or 12th grade is or what your undergraduation degree is. A CA you can only do in your final year of your undergrad or after. You can't do it in school. You can't do it in the first or second or third year of college. You have to do it in your final year. Actuarial science, you can do it after your undergraduate. You can do it after your postgraduate. If you can do it after school as well, the only thing is that you have to have mathematics as a subject. Okay, now let's talk about the different institutes that govern these degrees. The Institute of Chartered Accountancy of India governs the CA. Institute of Cost Accountants of India cover the cost accountancy. The Institute of Company Secretaries cover the company secretaries. The CFA Institute covers the CFA analyst program. Now, the CFA Institute, I know I had kept a separate segment for foreign professional courses, but over here, this body is a foreign body. Why have I recommended a foreign body in this segment? Is why because there is a lot of dispute happening between ICFAI, which is the Indian body that was regulating CFA, and the foreign university. So ICFAI has revoked their CA degrees and it's got a different CA program now, and it's not recognized as much as the foreign one. So that is why I'm recommending you to go from the foreign institute, the foreign CFA institute. Go for that. Is based on the United States. Institute of Actuaries of India again is an Indian institute. What are the levels? CA, you require 3 levels and an articleship. Articleship is much like an internship. You're required to do an internship for 3 years. It's got 3 levels in a CFA program. Cost accountancy, again, 3 levels in articleship. Company secretary, again, 3 levels in articleship. In a CFA program, you do not require an articleship. It is only 3 levels. And actuarial science degree, if you want, there are 4 stages with 15 papers. So 15 papers you have to sort of clear to become an actual scientist. That is why actually they're very limited in India, just a handful. And it is difficult, but it's really, people are really getting into this degree right now, and there's a huge demand for them. So do look at that. Um, Before I move on to the foreign professional courses, any questions regarding these courses? Any questions regarding these courses? Any questions? I'll have a look at the chat also. Give me a second. Okay, nothing of the sort. Okay, then let's move forward to the foreign professional courses. Now, students, the foreign professional courses. Oh, there's someone in the chat. Give me a second. Dipali ma'am, can you please unmute and can you just clarify a question? What do you mean by on the basics after 10th grade?
So what I mean is that like what options or what do you look up to when like after 10th? What can be expected to be done?
Okay. So after 10th grade, I would recommend you to firstly just take your commerce subjects. So take accounting, take accountancy, take maths, take BS, take eco, and just study these subjects as of now. Understand what is the degree you want to go for in college, and then prepare for either the entrance examinations for them, prepare for your GDPIs for them, and just clear your boards. So the main thing in 11th and 12th is to just do, if you can do pure commerce, which is a business studies, accounts, and economics with maths, it's amazing. Otherwise, see which subject you want to drop out of these, either two of the options available, and also focus on your entrance examinations uh, to get into colleges. What is very important for after 10th grade is to do some profile building. You have to take part in co-curricular activities. You have to build your resume. So this is one thing which I would which I would recommend you to do. Build your profile. To how to build a profile, you can do many certificate courses. You can take part in internships. You can take part in the school programs. There are many things you can do. What you can do is you can definitely contact us after the program. I'll give you an in-detail session as to the different things you can do in 11th and 12th to build a profile. There are a lot of opportunities, especially in today's day and age. A lot of internships, a lot of industry exposure, a lot of certificate programs, a lot of co-curricular activities, management fest, cultural fest, certificate courses. I'll be talking about a few of them in marketing and HR right now. Maybe you could have a look at them as well.
So, do you like prefer continuing schooling or college as a
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Do you prefer doing 11, 12, that is schooling, or PUC, that's college?
You see, it depends. Where are you from?
Bangalore.
Okay. So I would recommend that if you're looking to stay in Bangalore, go for PUs. Why? Because what happens is that PU gives you sort of an edge for the city you're in. So if you want to study in Bangalore, if you want to go to Christ, Joseph, go for PU, they're more recognized. The chances of you getting into these colleges is more. If you want to go, if you want to explore, keep your opportunities open. Obviously, then go for a board which is CBSE, ICSE, that is recognized all over the country. Even PU colleges have these boards as well. But what happens is that it's better to do it from a school if you're looking to go anywhere in the country. It's better to do it from a PUC if you want to go to a college in that city only, or in that state, in Karnataka, in that state. I hope that clarifies your question.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Uh, any question? Any other question? I'm looking at the screen. What is the scope post a BSc degree? BSc in what, Khushbu? Hi. Hi, Khushbu. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm pursuing a BSc in chemistry, zoology, and biotechnology. So, what about that? Mine is a triple major combination from St. Joseph's, Bangalore.
Oh yeah, we've spoken before. We've spoken before, definitely.
Yeah, we have. What about scope after that?
Khushbu, can you just tell me, are you looking at a finance degree? Are you looking at HR? Are you looking at marketing?
Yeah, those, see, if I talk about those and they are taking a switch from science to commerce, right? But what if I
Hmm.
want to stick with science? What is the scope in this field itself if I don't want to take a switch?
Oh, okay, okay. I won't, I don't want to go in detail because the course is on the webinars on commerce, but an MTech degree, you can definitely do an MTech degree, you can definitely do an MSc degree, you can go towards civil services. There's a lot of scope in that. I would recommend you to, if you've done a BSc, do an MSc or look at an MTech degree if you want to stay in science. Look at UPSC if you want to go to civil services, and look at certificate courses. Can you just give me an idea as to, do you want to do something similar to your field, or do you want to change your field?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I do not want to switch, what would you
Hmm.
suggest in this field itself, considering the three subjects that I have, which is BT, chemistry, and zoology? What about scope in these three subjects itself with the BSc in these three subjects?
Okay, so I would recommend you to spend 2 years working. After that, do a BSc, either of the three subjects, then go into research. Research in biology, chemistry is big. You can also, if you want to go into corporate, go for an MTech degree. There are a lot of colleges giving you an MTech in the subjects that you're looking at. So if you go for an MTech degree, your chances of getting higher remuneration is more. If you're looking at research, if you're looking at working in the research lab, then go for a BSc degree. If you're looking to work, if you're looking to work in any of these three fields in terms of your corporate, suppose you want to join a chemist, if you want to join a major chemist company which is making medicine, making different chemicals, then go for an MBA. If you want to join a major bio company which is producing either producing biodegradable material, medical material, things like those lines in terms of corporate, then go for an MBA. So let me put it this way: if you want to work as an engineer, if you want to work as something related to engineering of these products, if you want to work as something related to basically making these products, being involved in the manufacturing or production of these products, go for MTech. If you want to go for research, go for BSc. If you want to go for corporate, go for MBA. Does that solve your problem? Does that solve your query?
Yes, yes, it
You
does.
can also go for consultancy. So there lot of the consultancy firms, MBB, they require somebody who has some knowledge, technical knowledge about these fields. Only then they can actually give good solutions to their uh, clients. So since you are doing a triple major in these three technical subjects, you can also go for consultancy, but you have to do a corporate degree, which is a MBA or MIM for that.
Okay, so it does require studying post this, and there's no such job
No,
prospect
there
right
are jobs.
after.
There are jobs. There'll definitely be jobs. You can definitely work in research. You can definitely work in manufacturing. You can definitely try for commerce related jobs. But what's going to happen is that the remuneration is not as high as it would be for an MBA. As for, the issue with India is that we are still very much degree oriented. So suppose you're earning, let's say, 35 to 45,000 after your undergraduate course. Simply by studying and getting a good degree ahead, you will be earning maybe a lakh and a half to 2 lakhs a month after a degree. So you can definitely go for jobs. You can definitely try for jobs, but the remuneration might not be that much. And the issue with undergraduate is, if you want a high package for undergraduate, they're looking for engineers primarily. So since you're doing a BSc, it might not be corporate. You might not really get you might not get really high salaries as of now. Does that clarify?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. CFS. I'm sorry, CFS, Mr. Mukesh Kumar. CFS. Which degree is CFS? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question. Could you just tell me? Oh, CFA, CFA. Okay, okay. Oh yeah, CFA has. Oh, I'll tell you what CFA. CFA in India is picking up right now. A lot of students are doing CFA in India. CFA globally, I'm telling you, in some countries like the US, you are expecting salaries of an MBA. So globally, it's more recognized compared to India. CFA in India helps you boost, is mainly for profile building, is mainly for interest. So even after doing a CFA in India, you have to do an MBA. But if you are doing a CF, if you want to work abroad, if you get jobs abroad, CFA will give you as good salaries as MBA. So yes, CFA is very much globally recognized. In fact, it is recognized much more globally than it is recognized in India itself. I hope that answers your question. My pleasure. Okay, what are the foreign college for what are the foreign professional courses? So students, ideally, I would recommend you to do the Indian professional courses if you are looking for jobs here. Why? Because even if you do foreign professional courses, it doesn't guarantee you a placement. Understand that all these degrees, CA, CFA, they are all distance learning. They are not classroom degrees. You're doing this, you're studying on your own. You probably only go to meet your peers in coaching classes. If you don't join that, you won't even meet your peers. There are no placements as such, like a university offers placements, right? There's no placements as such. You get picked up after articleships. Some companies might come and look at you, but there's not a professional placement procedure in these degrees. So that is why I heavily recommend you to do Indian degrees, because even if you do foreign degrees, you won't be able to go over there solely based on these degrees. And in India, the Indian degrees are much more recognized. That being said, I'm still going to talk about the foreign degrees. Why do people offer foreign degrees, and why am I even talking about foreign degrees? Because the acceptance rate in India for these degrees is very low. They made it very, very difficult to get inside. So if you do the foreign degrees, you can still work in India. You can still, your remuneration, your employability will still increase. So if you're not able to do these degrees, CA, CS, CFA, if you CFA, I'm talking about the foreign one over here, my bad. If you're not able to do CA, CS, cost accountancy, you're finding it too difficult, you're not able to pass, because it happens. These are very difficult degrees. You can opt for these foreign degrees, and the chances of you passing is much higher. You can easily the acceptance rate is much higher, the pass rate is much higher. They're a bit more expensive, but definitely once you have these degrees, you will see a jump in your remuneration. So what is certified public accountant? This is the basically the US version of a CA. So it's similar course, similar field of studies and similar practices. So it's a certified public accountant is similar to a CA in the US. So Chartered Institute of Management Accounting is similar to a cost accountant. So you learn a lot about cost accounting in CIMA, and it's the equivalent of a cost accountant. Associate of Chartered Certified Accountants. This is the UK version of your CA. And financial risk management, it's an alternative to your CFA degree. So these are all, if you have each country will have different degrees, and each country will have different foreign degrees equivalent to your CA. But majorly look at US and look at UK, look at big economies, look at worldwide accepted economies to do these degrees from. So that's about the foreign professional courses. I'm just going to go through the marketing one and the HR one, and then I have a question session after that. Now, we've spoken a lot about accounting degrees, finance degrees, and there's obviously other fields you can pursue. The two major ones people pursue in commerce is either marketing or human resources. So, in today's day and age, being a marketer is very exciting. In the 21st century, the digital landscape has changed. The traditional marketing that used to happen, which is your TV, which is your newspaper, which is your hoardings, is slowly fading. And we have these new platforms coming up: Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and it's all about data. So the marketing landscape has completely changed. It's a young man's game. What do I mean by that is that these industries require young people to come in now because these tools are new. You can't have the traditional sense of marketing on these tools. You need a new type of marketing happening. So marketing is very interesting. All the students who are in 10th grade right now, you can also look at these courses. All the students who have graduated or in colleges, have a look at this marketing, digital marketing. It's an amazing place to be. The issue with marketing in India is that you don't have a institute. Like you don't have like a institute of marketers like you have for the chartered accountants or institute of corporate secretaries. So where to do your degree from? There are two types of degrees I would recommend. One are platform based and one are online and offline. What do I mean by platform based? Now you're going to be using Google Ads, Google Analytics a lot. Facebook, you're going to be using a lot. Twitter, you're going to be using a lot. If you do a course that makes you perfect, that builds your skill of this platform, if you do a course on Facebook or Facebook advertisement, A, your skill will improve. B, you're showing the employer that you're more employable. Why are these courses special? Because they are hosted by the platform. They are hosted by the people who made the platform. So Facebook Blueprint is hosted by Facebook itself. Twitter Flight School is hosted by Twitter. Google Ads is hosted by Google. So you're getting the certification from Google that you are good at Google Ads. You're getting a certificate from Facebook saying that you're good at Facebook ads. So this is valuable. It might not give you a huge jump in your salary, but it makes you more employable. The employer trusts you more. And the thing with marketing is that it's all about skill. In finance and accounting, it's more of a practice. Once you get used to it, you can do it. You can do it again and again and again. It's a lot of repetitive work. But in marketing, it has to be completely creative. You have to come up with new campaigns. It's a skill, it's an art. So by doing these programs on these platforms, you will get a very good understanding of these platforms that will enable you very well to come up with good ideas. And it will also give you a good boost in your employability. It might not give you as much as a jump as the finance courses, but again, it's a skill. Marketing is a skill. So you should have these courses. Online and offline, what do I mean by this? Basically, there are different institutes that are conducting courses for digital marketing: Simply Learn, Testbook, Digital Vidya, NIT Digital Marketing, Delhi School of Internet Marketing, AIMA. So these programs, like the platform-based program, only teach you about one platform. These programs will teach you about multiple platforms. They will teach you about Facebook, Instagram, email marketing, content creation, SEO. All of these different things can come from a online from these schools basically. So and they also have placement. So they have some sort of a placement as well. It might not give you that much of a jump, but then you're equipped with skills, so you know how to do these things. And that is very important for a marketer, especially today's day and age, because there are so many different platforms to use. There are so many different products which you can market. There's so many different ways you can market. So look at marketing as that, okay, this is not going to help me that much financially, but it's going to equip me with the skills so that I can do good work and I can rise the corporate ladder faster. Professional courses for human resources. So again, in professional courses for human resources, there is not a major body in India that's giving you human resource professional courses. That being said, there is one institute which is the HR Certified Institute. I'm going to talk about that program soon. which is giving out degrees, which is giving out courses and professional courses for human resource professionals. So what's happening here is that this HR Certificate Institute, it is a foreign institute. Not many Indian students are doing this, but that is actually a good thing. Why? Because if you have this course, you are ahead of the crop. You are the few people who have actually gone out of a way and done a course in HR. So the recruiter will appreciate that. The person who's recruiting you, if you tell them I've done this course, compared to the other people who have not done any course, you will definitely get a lot of leverage over that. And the HR professionals these days don't have many courses to choose from. So what happens is that they simply do an MBA and they're good to go. But over here, you've gone out of your way and you've got a professional course as well. So what does a professional course in HR do? What does it equip you with? Well, in HR, the professional course makes you strategic. It equips you enough to come up with good HR strategies, pitch them to the board, and implement them. It tells you what payroll, tells you what appraisal, tells you what performance evaluations, all those technical HR terms. These courses help you out in that. They tell you about this. They also tell you about the technology you can use to conduct these operations. So it is again a very good skill building course. If it doesn't give you that much of a jump in terms of remuneration, it is still a very good skill building course to have. Now, the good thing about the HR Certification Institute is that they have courses for anybody and everybody. Suppose you have little to no industry exposure, you're just in college, you can do a course from them. Suppose you have 1 to 3 years of industry experience and you have a bachelor's degree, you can still do a course with them. 4 to 5 years of industry experience, a bachelor's degree, you can do a course. 1 to 2 years of industry experience and a master's degree, you can do a course. You get in the point. So no matter where you are in your career, you can definitely look at them. I recommend even to 12th grade students and the first or second year college students to definitely check this out, because it will definitely, you'll be one of the few people who have a certification in HR. And that is going to go a long way, because you've shown the recruiter that you can go out of your way, you've conducted your research, you've done a course, you put in that hard work. So just because it's not like a CA institute, do not discard digital marketing and HR courses. They will help you improve your skill, they will help you perform better in your job, and the recruiter will appreciate seeing such a course on your resume. Before I move to degrees for academia, I'd like to stop and take a few questions. Anybody? Any questions? Any questions, or should I move on? Okay, then I'll move on. Now, what do I mean by degrees for academia students? By degrees for academia, I mean that, okay, there's a question. Give me a second. Okay. Thanks. Okay, so what is the degrees for academia? Basically, students, that these courses are perfect if you're looking for a career in research, if you're looking to do a PhD, if you're looking to it's basically not, these degrees aren't the best for corporate, but there's good degrees to have if you're looking to go into teaching, looking to do a PhD. These are good degrees to have. But don't expect that much of a corporate return. In the sense, don't expect that much of a high salary from them. There's something in the chat. Let me just have a look. I've got a question that if I take liberal arts, can I still do marketing? 100%. 100% you can do marketing. In fact, you have an advantage because you've done liberal arts. Why? Because you have read so many books. You've actually written so many things. You are more creative than a BCom graduate or a pure commerce graduate. So yes, you can do liberal arts. In fact, you can do marketing, my bad, after liberal arts degree, and you will be amazing at it because your degree has equipped you with critical thinking. So you're going to be a very good marketer. So definitely go ahead and give marketing a shot even after a liberal arts degree. If in terms of career prospects, you can even go for an MBA. You can do all of these courses as well. Okay. So degrees for academia. Sorry, I was fumbling a bit that time. I was looking at the chat. Basically, if you want to become a teacher, if you want to do a PhD, these are good degrees to go for. You can even go ahead and for government jobs from these degrees. but these degrees are not as good as your MBA and MIM. So don't expect that much of a salary jump from them. Know what you're going to these degrees for. So these degrees are masters in commerce, masters in arts, human resources, masters in marketing management, masters of finance and control, masters of investment and financial analysis, masters of marketing technology. There are many degrees like these, but basically the MBA and MIM give you great corporate returns, but these degrees will teach you in depth about the subjects. And MBA and MIM just touch upon all subjects. These degrees will teach you in detail about them. You get more exposure to the subjects about them, but they're restricted. A master's in arts human resources will only tell you about HR. It won't tell you also about the corporate use of this. It's more theoretical, is what I'm trying to say. It's more theoretical and it's more research based. It's not very practical. You don't get that much exposure to corporate practices from these degrees, and that is why the remuneration is also less. But if you're going for research, these degrees are considered more valuable than your MIM and MBA. I can tell you that as well. So the duration is 2 years. Eligibility is most of these degrees, even the master's degree. If you've done a commerce degree, if you've done something related to maths, they take you if you have 50% also. Entrance is mainly, admissions is mainly entrance based. Doctor of Philosophy, PhD. Now, I haven't mentioned an MPhil over here. Understand, students, that this time we're going through a transition. In early last year, what happened is that, or mid last year, what happened is that we had the new education policy. The new education policy, what they did is what they're talking about scrapping the MPhil degree. So what used to happen earlier is that you had to do a postgraduate, a PhD, you had to do a bachelor's, a master's, then a MPhil, and then you can finally do a PhD. But now what's happening is that they scrap the MPhil. They're trying to include the MPhil into your master's itself. They're trying to include research competence from the MPhil into your master's as well. So you might see an increase in the duration of your master's course next year. It might come to 3 years. So this is some confusion that's happening these days because the government really hasn't clarified if they're changing the master's degree. They have scrapped the MPhil course in most colleges. So most colleges have been told do not take MPhil candidates next year. So there's a little bit of a confusion happening. We don't really know what's going to happen, but still, if you're looking for a doctor's, if you're looking for a PhD, complete your master's at least. By the time the admissions open up in April, May, we'll definitely know what's happening with MPhil. And do keep in touch. We'll let you know what the update about the MPhil degree is. Moving on, if you have done your master's, if you've done your MPhil, or if the master's has been merged into MPhil, what next? It is the Doctor of Philosophy, the PhD degree which you have to do. This is the one that gives you the title doctor before your name. 3 to 5 years it takes. See, the thing with Doctor of Philosophy is more research based, where you have to conduct your research. You have to come up with a research proposal. You have to collect the data. You have to do your analysis. It's a dissertation. It's a research proposal. So it can take some people 3 years. It can take some people 5 years. It doesn't have that many in class. You don't have many class. You don't have a 10 class primarily in this course. You have to meet your guide and you have to just work on your proposal. So this is what a doctorate degree is for. What is the admissions? Different type of degrees have different entrance examinations, and then so like suppose some of the technical related technology related PhD programs you have to go through JEE or GATE. Sometimes you have to every institute might have their own entrance examination. So you have to do some research on this. There's not one blanket entrance examination for all PhDs. Then you have an interview. Then you have to give your research proposal. So it is again very research oriented. Your research proposal has to be picked up. These are just a few few fields you can do a PhD in if you're a commerce student. So I think we're pretty much clear about masters, MPhil, and PhD. And that would be all from my end from today. Thank you all so much for attending. I am open to questions. Let us look at, okay. Thank you, Rishabh, for thanking everybody. Any other questions today? Any other things you want to know about? Feel free to ask questions. Otherwise, definitely get in touch with us for a career counseling session. And the students who have not from a commerce background, understand, guys, that we're running an experiential learning program. So what we're doing is that we can make you experience all these fields of marketing, of finance, or human resources. We have a case study methodology. We have a workshop methodology where you see a video and perform a case study on a real, and they're all based on real life scenarios. So anybody who is not from a commerce background, or anybody who is a bit confused about commerce or these different fields I've spoken about today, no worries. It's completely natural. Unless you don't experience it, how will you know? So do look at our program. Do see if you would like to experience these careers. And other than that, thank you all so much for attending. Any questions? Any
One
questions?
one question from my side.
Sure, sure.
Thanks for the a very informative discussion that we had. So one quick point: are you just helping on the career aspects, or you are also helping students in basically picking up the stream? I'm just going one step back, picking up a stream post year 10th. The career comes a little bit later on. Do you help them in basically choosing the
Definitely.
right stream also? How
Definitely.
do how do you do that, and can you just throw some light on that?
Definitely, sir. So, sir, we definitely we help out students in their 10th grade also deciding their careers. So our model has basically three steps. The first step is a personal coaching sort of a step. What happens is that each student is given a personal coach. This personal coach conducts an in-depth psychometric evaluation of the student to understand their interest, understand their aptitude, understand their personality, and post that, what this course does is that they recommend a lot of reading material, a lot of videos for the student to see to decide their career. We also have an experience cells, like I mentioned, for 10th grade students. So we made the program in such that 10th grade students can also take part in it. So students can also experience their careers through our experience cells. That is step number two. And the third thing is, we have a lot of events throughout the year. We have a lot of webinars like this, a lot of workshops for students to further explore their career options. So yes, we do help students in 10th grade. They can take part in the psychometric evaluation. They'll be given a personal coach. They'll be having the experience cells to take part in. They also have a lot of events to take part in. So that is our whole program for 10th grade students to help them understand what career to go for in 11th grade.
So just a supplementary to that question, my point is, how longish is that period we talking about? Because see, suppose there are some students who are currently in the 10th standard, and within a couple of, I mean, this year the exam has got delayed because of the reason known to all of us. So suppose the exam gets conducted in the month of April or May, they have to pick up and choose options in say May, June. So how do you help those customers at this point in time? So what is the way forward, because they'll have to make a choice, the career option, whether they go for whether they pick up MBA, BBA, or a BCom is post 12th. So how do they help them in basically picking up whether it's science or commerce at this point in time right now? So I understand you have got many webinars during the whole year, but I'm talking about the timelines between now and the time when they have to pick up the proper
Definitely,
code.
definitely. So we have a 2-day program for the students. So on the first, what we do is on the first day is that we conduct a whole psychometric evaluation for them. On the second day, we make them go through all of our modules. So a 2-day short program, we conduct them. Post this, we can we have a meeting with the parents and we recommend what careers to do and how to go about them. So this is for the 10th grade students, wherein it's a 2-day workshop which includes a psychometric testing and the experience cells. After that, we recommend the career to the parents, and throughout the year after, of course, right now I understand that you need, it's urgent. So the 2-day program will help you get a good insight of what to do in the short term, and then you also have access to our platform for the whole year. So whenever you're comfortable, you can take part in our webinars and workshops. But if you require something immediately, we have a 2-day program.
So is the meeting offline, or you it's just online? Is it face to face, or how does it happen?
So where are you located, sir?
In Pune.
Okay, sir. So we are in Bangalore and Delhi for offline, and online we can take anybody anywhere. So
Why
we
to find more details on your website? Where can we find more details?
definitely. Team Compass, can we please have something on the chat? Okay,
So
sir, we've posted our website on the chat. You can have a look at it.
okay.
And so we'll definitely ensure that we have somebody from our team call you as well.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure, sir. My pleasure. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar.
Yeah, perfect.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Yeah, so like as the previous person mentioned, I also need guidance. Like I'm completing my 10th, so I too need the guidance. So if in case there is any other webinar or anything as such, please keep us informed.
Definitely, definitely. We'll definitely get in touch with you and tell you about our program and all other webinars as well.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure. Anything? Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, then I guess that'll be all from us. Thank you so much for being such a patient audience, and thank you so much for interacting. I had a complete blast conducting this session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Do stay in touch and hope to see you all soon. That'll be all. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.